Hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
How you doing?
You picked an incredible week to ask me to join this talk, which is awesome because I got some stuff.
All right. Well, let us start straight away. What has been on your mind lately?
I think the biggest thing it's sort of like a basic, fundamental question of how do I make it through till May? Like
Oh,
literally, I I've realized over the years I don't get along with January and February very well. Um, in that I need the vitamin D of sunlight, and if I don't get it, everything sort of falls apart. So
okay,
there's that anyway.
okay.
And I I have to say I hit a massive hole, as did millions of people across the world, um, last year at the American election.
Mhm.
And I have yet to really pull myself out of that. In
Okay.
fact, I feel like I have dug myself deeper since then, um, because I remember at election day I posted something and I was like, too many people are writing, I have no words. It's like I got some words, and I was like, none of them are good. But at the end, I said something that I will still stick to, which is the best resistance we have is creativity, and
Mhm.
that we have to keep building stuff. And um, in every shitty political situation, or out of every shitty political situation, there has come a brilliant art community of people that are creating out of the necessity of creating to just get the get the gunk out.
Mhm.
Um, and I've been doing that nonstop. I've got projects and I've got things that I do at home, and I've taken things on that I go, this is your chance. This is your chance to speak up and be heard, and sort of offer your voice to the great choir of resistance. And I've I have to say, quite honestly, this week I felt like, oh my God, is there any sense in doing this anymore? Is there any sense in offering a voice? Because on one end, I see what's going on in America. I see what's going on in Iran. Um, and I go, oh my God, people are standing up and fighting, and they're screaming, and that's great. Um, on the other end, I'm confronted daily with this unbelievable sense of hopelessness, of just hopelessness, of going, okay, I'm pissed off. There are a bunch of people that are pissed off, and somehow the assholes are still finding a way to get around us.
Mhm.
Um, and so in these extremely bleak times, um, I'm desperately searching for a creative outlet, and then at the same time, strangely frustrated with my existence within the outlet, because I go, that's I'm not creating anything good enough or important enough. Like, that's not the point. The point is literally add your voice to the choir. There's a an author, an American author, named Michael Moore, who talks about the relationship between, let's say, people from the conservative side that see the country and the government as a child sees its parents, and that
Mhm.
everything it does is right, and we do not have the right to complain or to criticize it.
Mhm.
And the people on the liberal side of things, especially expats, people that leave and live somewhere else, um, they see their country and their government more like a lover, and that you go, okay, I'm taking you for all of your warts, I'm taking you for all of your problems, and I'm going to speak up when I see them, and I'm going to do my best to push you toward the sun, um, but I'm not going to stay silent, and I'm
Right.
choosing you. you didn't choose me, I am choosing you, which is perhaps a bit more a bit more transactional. To quote
Mm-hmm.
Janet Jackson, like, "What have you done for me lately?"
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that's where I am at the moment. That's where I've been for years since coming to Europe, and I do
Yeah.
feel like coming to Europe increased my sense of patriotism.
Okay. Mm.
In that, um, I go, I remember looking at the country I grew up in when I was growing up, and I look at it and I go, I want to still have that sense of wonder when I think of where I come from. And and I said this to my wife, to Anne, um, weeks ago. I was like, I think the hardest thing is I have to come to grips with the fact that the image I had of the country I come from was a myth. I
Mm-hmm.
remember a conversation you and I had in Hamburg, um, when um, the Michael Brown situation happened in America, where a young black man was shot in my hometown. Um, and we were talking about growing up and witnessing racism, and you would ask me the questions like, was I ever witness to something horrible that was coming out of a racial situation? And I remember going, God, you know what? I was in high school in the 90s. We all just got along. We all smoked pot and we all listened to cool music, and it was all good. And everybody was cool with each other. And you thought, and you said, oh, wow, that's really great. You were very, very lucky. And then like a half an hour later, I was like, you know what? Now that you ask, I remember, I want to say it was like 1991 when the KKK um, got into our school and found out which lockers belonged to white kids and put flyers into the lockers of the white kids offering scholarships for white kids, because they said, minorities have their chance for scholarships. What's wrong with white kids getting scholarships? And
Mm-hmm.
I remember saying, now that you've asked, there was that one time, and you smiled and you nodded and you went, that's what we call privilege. And I go, it's true. It didn't even register for years because it was that one little blip.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the conversation that you and I had has stayed with me now for almost 10 years of going, um, I, I had this image in my head of the town that I lived in, the state that I lived in, and the country that I lived in. Um, and now going back and watching all these horrible things, and listening to people like Rachel Maddow talk about uh, the what was called the America First movement that now Donald Trump has taken on. America First is his was his platform. That America First was born in the 30s, and it was born from the American fascist and Nazi party.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, God, it hurts so much to be aware. Sometimes you wish you could just be stupid and go, I don't hear anything, blah, 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 blah. But the truth is, I have to come to grips with the fact that this American ideal that I spent so much of my life just sort of taking for granted, that it was a, a myth, a well meant myth, but
Mm-hmm.
a myth. And, and learning to not take things for granted is a shitty lesson. It's a shitty lesson because it just hurts, because it makes you look at things that aren't very pretty. How do I stand up for things that are uncomfortable? And how do and where do I draw lines? Because there are things that I see now where I go, mm, I'm supposed to belong to this side of the fence, but I don't agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
And and again, you and I have famous talks that get dynamic and can last forever. And it means really looking at what you're saying and knowing that you have something to back up. And so I go, okay, look, if I claim to be a diehard liberal, going, I believe in this. I believe in empathy. I believe in inclusiveness. I believe in all these things. But then there are things I go, shit, I don't really believe in this.
Mhm.
Um, and or the act of going, do I believe in this? I think it's much harder to ask the question, am I okay with this, than to just blindly go, this is fine because this is the side I belong to.
Right.
Um, and through social media and through constant conversation and confrontation, we are forced um, to pick apart our own side, and that's so difficult because I do feel like the people on the right that I so firmly disagree with, they have no problem. They don't criticize themselves at all. They go, um, this is what we believe, and if you don't like it, then fuck you. Um, it's the people on the left that will destroy themselves over small details, which is really, really rough. Um, I've just been watching about there's an independent journalist named Don Lemon
Mhm.
in America. Used to be on CNN, and now he's an independent journalist. And there was a protest against ICE in America that went into a church because one of the pastors at the church was an ICE agent. And so people went into a church and protested. And Don Lemon, as an independent journalist, was documenting it. Um, and he got arrested.
Right.
And the idea of arresting journalists is wrong. It's just wrong. Um, at the same time, I said, we on the left side, we get extremely upset about the fact that ICE in America are going into churches and going into schools to take people away, because we've said churches are sacred. You don't bother that.
Mhm.
And now a group of people whose basic premise I agree with have now gone into a church
Yeah.
to protest loudly against someone, which again, I agree with the idea of the protest, but we're sneaking into a gray area where I'm not quite sure I'm into that. Does that mean that Don Lemon was that his arrest was justified? No. But I go, um, it's we live in a rainbow of gray at the moment, and I think that makes it's so difficult to stand up and just go, I'm against this. I go, I really have to think about what I'm against and what I'm for. And I have to be careful about the way I articulate myself.
Which is also at the same time a beautiful thing, right? I think it was for a long time very all over, very wide, and now one could be really, like you said, you want to, when you talk, you want to know what you specifically what you agree on and what you do not agree on, what's been said, how it's been said. Um, yeah, it is. I understand. I understand the difficulty, frustration, hopelessness. Whew, hopelessness. Jesus Lord, yeah. Hmm.
It's been so hard, especially in our business, in the business of the theater, where I have always been confronted with the question, where does art play a part in what we're doing?
Yeah.
Um, I was very, very lucky, or very, very unlucky, depending on how you see it, to have a directing teacher in college who gave me the only definition of art that I know and can hold on to,
Mm,
which is art is anything that is created for the sole purpose of being interpreted.
mm,
And so anything you are doing has, if you're going to call yourself an artist, everything you are doing has to be created as a kind of metaphor and say, okay, why am I creating this? Why have I chosen this? Why do I move like this? Um, and why do I do this gig? And why do I do this job? And it's very, very difficult. And oftentimes, um, the art in musical theater and sometimes in theater itself, and also in straight uh, speaking plays, um, is okay. Is it entertainment? Is it art? Is it and where does the line blur? And and so it's also going okay. Where can I inject my personal view into what I'm doing, or at this point in time, do I shut up, take the money and run? Do a show or a concert or a project where you go, this is great. I have fun, and this is what I do for a living, and it's not necessarily art. And if I consider myself an artist, which I do, which makes it really hard to sleep at times, what is it I need to do to balance that out? And that's difficult. And I feel like an artist is always hopeful because an artist is always looking for a way to present something from another angle. An artist is always looking for a new way to invent themselves and a new way to sort of tickle society and tickle its audience. In hopelessness, I still have a sense of hope, and I'm fighting for it. I'm clinging to it, and it feels like it's getting more and more difficult to cling to the hope that I have.
we're now 20 minutes into, or you
Mm-hmm.
ask me a question, or
Yeah, yeah.
we continue with this because I have some questions for you too.
My question to you is: what are your 5 go-to songs that bring you joy? Absolute joy.
Drew, I cannot tell you just joy. Good feel kind of songs. Yes, I can tell you that must be like People Bryson. We can go into People Bryson kind of old Luther. I have to say that I do. That is actually sad that I don't do that. A song that gives me joy. I need to write that down for real. To have a song that gives me pure joy. Tell me yours, please.
Prince, Let's Go Crazy.
Oh, okay.
Um, a band called Fishbone, called Everyday Sunshine. Muddy Waters, the Hoochie Coochie Man.
Okay.
Hoochie Coochie Man is my theme song. When I don't feel like I can handle the day, I stand in front of the mirror and play Hoochie Coochie Man by Muddy Waters. Um, uh, 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 Tears of a Clown by Smokey
Mhm.
Robinson. Uh, Close to You by the Carpenters. Those are songs where I just go, I know my day will be better if I listen to those.
And is that connected because you listened to them at a time where joy was present in your life and that's how you got to know the song? Or is it because the song itself gives you that the beat, the rhythm, the
Okay,
musical
I'll
arrangement?
say, "Let's Go Crazy" by Prince is the dramaturgy of the whole thing. It's
Yeah.
literally, "Don't you let the elevator bring you down." He
Mm-hmm.
sings that over and over and over again. If the elevator tries to bring you down, go crazy. Everyday Sunshine is literally it's a gospel song
Mm-hmm.
in by a ska band from the 90s. Um, and it's like a mantra every day, every day, every day, every day, every day is sunshine, every day, every day, every day, every day, every day is sunshine. Um, Hoochie Coochie Man, I've told you, it's absolute power, but
Mm-hmm.
not aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
It's saying you're gonna be fine. On the seventh hour of the seventh day of the seventh month, the seventh doctor said he was born for good luck, and that you see, I've got $700, so don't you mess with me.
Mm-hmm.
Which is just it makes me be able to move. Um, uh, 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 Tears of a Clown is Smokey Robinson, but it was written by Stevie Wonder,
Mm-hmm.
and it's got the intro that bum 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 ba-da-dum bum 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 ba-da-dum bum 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 bum. It has a circus vibe where you're like, everything's gonna be
Mm-hmm.
fine. You're at the circus, and actually, the text is quite sad, um,
Uh-huh.
but the vibe of the song is literally, I hear it and I go, oh, I'm gonna be fine. I'm gonna be fine. I'm at the circus and I'm gonna be fine. And Close to You is is grounded adult joy. It's just going, there are things I don't understand. Why do birds suddenly appear every time you are near? Just like me, they long to be close to you. It's literally,
Mm-hmm.
if if I'm near you, I am fine. And I don't have to ask the questions because the questions are not important.
I have songs that give me that build me up, but joy songs I find that very difficult. I have a lot of songs that build me up that, but not even when I'm down, just sitting, especially when I'm on a flight, like that,
Yeah.
that gives me this. Oh, okay, good. But joy is another emotion. I need to think about that, right? And actually ask myself why I don't have songs that give me joy. Hmm.
I was raised like I came to music. My parents had like records and stuff when I was growing up, but I came to music through growing up in the church when I was a little kid. And I was
Mm-hmm.
very lucky, and I still say it anytime religion comes up, that I go, I was extremely lucky to have the church family that I grew up in, and that it was extremely inclusive. We had we've had female ministers, we've had interfaith administrators. Our musical director at the church was Jewish, but he said, "I just love the music in this church," and so he stayed for the music and was just part of our family. Um, we've had queer members of the congregation that were accepted and were brought into positions of administration, which is extremely rare in the Midwest, especially in the Midwest in the 90s. Um, and I was exposed to every kind of music. But we had one pastor, one preacher, who had studied to be a clown. He'd done clowning, and so he did. I think he did it twice a year. He did a clown service where no one spoke and everything was done with pantomime and stuff. And he started by painting himself up, and he did a thing where we all sort of stood up, and he went from person to person, and he would look at us, and he would go. I have to do it with my hands. He would go, hmm, and we would go, mm-hmm, and he would go, and I go, oh, mm-hmm, and then he would go, and you'd be forced to say, "Do I love myself?"
Mm-hmm.
And it was such a it was a hard question, but it came from a place of almost childlike joy.
Mm-hmm.
And I have found so much music that had joy in it through being part of the church. And now as an open-minded, liberal thinking person who still wants to sort of cling to these beliefs, I go, the only tool I have is joy.
I think this is a great end. Thank you, Drew.
I thank you for asking the question, and I feel better now that I've talked.